Hey guys, it's Marshall Mathers IV here, back to you today with another video. And in today's video, this will be a video today about the fact that I really wish and do believe that Eminem should have released his recovery album instead of on June 18 in the year 2010 at the age of 37, released that album of his on March 18 in the year 2010. So obviously, have that album of his came out the same year it did, being 2010 or 2010, even same day and at the same age that he was at when he released that album of his, being 37 years old. I just simply wish that he would have released it in the month of March rather than in the month of June like he actually did, which pisses me the fuck off because, in my opinion, I think that album should have came out in the month of March. And that's one of the just couple things that I wish would have been different about that album of his. Well, like the first of two things that I wish more than anything would have been different about that album of his. And that would have only been possible if he would have released his canceled Relapse 2 album on November 13 in the year 2008 at the age of 36 years old. And that would have only been possible or might have happened if he would have been able to release his first Relapse album on January 1 in the year 2008 at the age of 35, which is when he definitely should have released his first Relapse album, and then his canceled second Relapse album, which he also definitely should have released on November 13 in the year 2008 at the age of 36. And those two things would have only been possible if he would have released his encore album at the very latest on July 8 in the year 2003 at the age of just 30 years old, instead of when he actually did release his encore album, which was on November 12 of 2004 at the age of 32, even though he originally was going to release that album of his on November 16 in the year 2004. The only reason he released it like a few days earlier is because his younger half-brother Nathan's friend had leaked the track listing for Eminem's encore album, so he had to rush like the final production on that album of his and even like speed up some of the like last few songs that he released on his encore album, which I think were just Puke, Rain Man, and Big Weenie, such awful garbage songs by Eminem that Eminem has ever made and released that he never should have in the first damn place. But it just sucks that that album of his failed miserably as it did, and no thanks to Eminem's younger half-brother Nathan's friend for leaking Eminem's encore album track list. But anyways, that's not when I wish and do believe that Eminem's encore album should have been released. In my personal opinion and point of view, I strongly believe and think and wish it should have been released on exactly and specifically July 8 in the year 2003, when he would have only been 30 years old. So that album of his have been older than it actually is, therefore more classic. And instead of Eminem being 32 years old, which is how old he actually was when he did release his encore album, have him instead have been only 30 years old. And of course, that is only if he would have released his encore album on July 8 in the year 2003, during the time he would have still been 30 years old, knowing that he wouldn't have even turned 31 until October 17 of 2003. And that is why I wish and do believe his encore album should have been released on July 8 at the very latest in the year 2003, when he would have only been 30 years old. So he would have been 2 whole years younger than how old he actually was when he released that album of his. And then after that, on December 6th of 2004 at the age of 32, release his Curtain Call Greatest Hits album, and then on December 5 in the year 2005, at the age of just 33, release his Eminem Presents the Re-Up compilation album instead of releasing those two when they actually were released, which was December 6th of 2005 at the age of 33 and December 5 in the year 2006 at the age of 34. But those two things of Eminem's could have been released earlier as well if he would have released his encore album on July 8 in the year 2003 at the age of 30. Then it would have actually have been possible for him to have released his Curtain Call Greatest Hits album on December 6 in the year 2004 at the age of 32 instead of December 6 of 2005 at the age of 33. And he could have released his Eminem Presents the Re-Up compilation album on December 5 in the year 2005 at the age of 33 instead of December 5 of 2006 at the age of 34 like he actually was. And then if that would have happened, he would have then came back in 2008, which is the year I really wish and wanted him to come back after his 4-year hiatus or break from making and releasing rap albums, and then have released his Relapse album on January 1 in the year 2008 at the age of just 35 years old, and then his Relapse 2 album, as well as a Relapse 2 refill album for leftover Relapse 2 songs that would not have made the Relapse 2 album, and released them on a Relapse 2 refill album, both released on November 13 in the year 2008 at the age of 36. And if that had happened, if that's the way things would have actually went, as I wish they would have more than anything, I would have then loved it for him to release his recovery album on exactly and specifically March 18 in the year 2010 at the age of 37. And like I said before earlier in this video, the same year he released his recovery album, and even same exact day, the only one of two things that would have been different about that album of his would have been the month it would have been released. But the second thing I really wish more than anything, and do strongly believe should have been different about his recovery album, is the fact that 3 of the songs that are on his recovery album from the year 2010 would have never been released on that album of his, being On Fire, So Bad, and Ridas. And those 3 songs, or tracks in other words, were Relapse 2 songs that were originally supposed to be on his Relapse 2 album, his canceled, scrapped, unreleased Relapse 2 album. And obviously, if he would have released his Relapse 2 album, those songs, as well as many others, On Fire, So Bad, and Ridas, would have been on his Relapse 2 album. So, obviously, there are 3 songs that I would have had in mind, or instead in place, for those songs on Eminem's recovery album if he would have released his Relapse 2 album, which he definitely should have, but only if he would have released his first Relapse album on January 1 of 2008 at the age of 35, and then his second on November 13 in the year 2008 at the age of 36 years old, as well as a Relapse 2 refill album. And then when releasing his recovery album on what should have been March 18 of 2010 instead of June 18 of 2010, instead of having the songs On Fire, So Bad, and Ridas on his recovery album, because in my version, his Relapse 2 album would have been released, or at least it fucking should have been, and there is no denying that fact. The songs that should have instead have been on his recovery album should have been Fly Away featuring Just Blaze, which you can actually listen to on YouTube, and that song is actually a recovery throwaway scrapped song anyways, so it would have been a perfect song to have or put in place of his song On Fire, which was originally supposed to be on his Relapse 2 album anyways. So have the song Fly Away featuring Just Blaze, which is a dope ass fucking song that honestly should have been on his recovery album. And then in place of where his song So Bad Is, which is also a Relapse 2 throwaway song that's on Eminem's recovery album, instead of, or in place of his song So Bad, have the song D12 Fame, which is also known as Going Crazy, or it's either more known as Going Crazy. It's either D12 Fame or D12 Going Crazy, and it's a song that's featuring Eminem, but it would have been an absolutely awesome, amazing, incredible, out of this fucking world song if it would have been released on Eminem's recovery album. Honestly, it would have been a perfect song for Eminem to end his relationship with his old rap group D12 on. I mean, honestly, that would have been such a perfect, excellent, like, goodbye song to his old rap group D12 released on his recovery album. And the very last song that him and D12 would have ever made and done together. But sadly, it was only ever released on a mixtape, unfortunately. But if it had made it on his recovery album in place of where his song So Bad Is, that would have been just fucking epic. And then in place of where his song Ride As Is, which again is another Relapse 2 throwaway scrapped song because he didn't release his Relapse 2 album, sadly. In place of where that song is, I would have put the solo version of That's All She Wrote. So T.I. on his 2010 album has a song called That's All She Wrote, and it's featuring Eminem. It's a great rap song. But on YouTube, there is a solo version that Eminem did just by himself that obviously has some different verses that Eminem doesn't have or say or put on the version that has him and T.I., the rapper T.I., because it's on T.I.'s album. And so I would have had the solo version of That's All She Wrote, where it's just Eminem by himself on his recovery album, in place of where the song Ride As is. Because, again, in like my world or in my version, my universe, Eminem would have released his Relapse 2 album because all of his albums would have came out earlier, or at least they most definitely should have, because if that had happened, I do feel like there would have been more likely of a chance that Eminem would have released his canceled Relapse 2 album, but that's only if he would have released his first Relapse album earlier, and that's only if he would have released his Encore album earlier, as well as the two things in between being his Curtain Call Greatest Hits album and Eminem Presents the Re-Up compilation album, instead of in 2005 and 2006 like they actually were released, instead of been released in 2004 and 2005, so that he could have released his Relapse album earlier, like on January 1 of 2008 at the age of 35, and then his Relapse 2 album, as well as on the same exact day and same exact year, a Relapse 2 refill album for the left out Relapse 2 albums that would not have been able to have fit on or made it on his canceled Relapse 2 album. And both of those things have been released on November 13 of 2008 at the age of 36. So then he could have released his recovery album on exactly and specifically March 18 of 2010 at the age of 37. And instead of having the songs On Fire, So Bad, and Riders, which were Relapse 2 throwaway scrap songs, because he would have released his Relapse 2 album, instead have had Fly Away featuring Just Blaze, D12 Fame, or D12 Going Crazy, but it would have been titled like Eminem Fame or Eminem Going Crazy featuring D12 if it would have made it on his recovery album, as it definitely should have. And then instead of having the song Riders, have the song That's All She Wrote solo version with just Eminem. And those are the only things that I wish more than anything would have been different about Eminem's Recovery album from 2010. And I'm fucking pissed. I'm fucking pissed that his Recovery album didn't come out and get released on March 18 in the year 2010 instead of June 18 like it actually did. And I'm fucking pissed that instead of releasing his Relapse 2 album before and earlier than his Recovery album, so that he would not have had to have released the songs On Fire, So Bad, and Ride Us on his Recovery album, because then he could have had and released songs like Fly Away featuring Just Blaze, Throwaway Scrapped Recovery Era song that should have made his Recovery album, Eminem Fame or Going Crazy featuring D12, which definitely should have made Eminem's Recovery album instead of So Bad, and That's All She Wrote solo version with just Eminem in place and instead of the song Ride Us, because all three of those songs, all three of On Fire, So Bad, and Ride Us should have been on and made it on Eminem's Relapse 2 album that he really should have released on November 13 in the year 2008 at the age of 36 years old, as well as Relapse 2 Refill on the same exact month, day, and year that he would have released his Relapse 2 album, released his first Relapse album on January 1, 2008 at the age of 35, released his Eminem Presents the Re-Up compilation album on December 5, 2005 at the age of 33 instead of December 5 of 2006 at the age of 34, and then released his Curtain Call Greatest Hits album on December 6, 2004 at the age of 32 instead of December 6 of 2005 at the age of 33, and then release his fucking Encore album on what should have been July 8 of 2003 at the age of 30 years old instead of fucking bullshit ass November 12 of 2004 at the age of 32. So then he could have released his first Relapse album on January 1 of 08 at the age of 35, Relapse 2 and Relapse 2 Refill on November 13 of 2008 at the age of 36, and then Recovery on March 18, 2010 at the age of 37. Again, March 18, 2010 at age 37. And then instead of On Fire, So Bad, and Ride Us, Fly Away featuring Just Blaze, Eminem Fame or Going Crazy featuring D12, and That's All She Wrote solo version instead of the song Ride Us. And those are all the things that I wish would have actually happened with Eminem's Recovery album. All the things that I wish would have been different. And I really do want as many of you to understand where I'm coming from in these videos. But I can only hope that you will understand, because you probably never will. And you know, I know these videos are annoying. I know they're repetitive. I know they're boring. And I know they're not interesting or fascinating or exciting as my incel videos or just my videos about complaining about things or whatever, or like Blackpilled videos or whatever. But you know what? These videos mean a lot to me, and I'm taking my time and effort out of my day to make these videos, to put them out on YouTube for all the public to see, because I want as many of you to see these videos as possible, because I want as many people as possible to agree with me on this. At least that's what I hope. That's what my hope is. Even if there won't be that many people who agree with me, even if there's a really small, minuscule, micro, tiny amount, as long as it's any amount of people at all, it will be enough for me. And, you know, when I start a series, I want to finish it. Honestly, like, when I start a video series about anything, about any topic, I want to finish it. And I don't see what's so hard to understand about that. I mean, I want you people to understand where I'm coming from. I want you people to have some kind of like insight to what I think about all the time in my mind. And I want to make these videos anyways, because I don't want to think about this shit all the time. I want to be able to make these videos, put them out on YouTube for all the public to see, so I don't have to think about this all the time or ever again. Because I just want this to be like a one and done thing. I want to do these video series one time and be done with it, be finished, and not even think about this shit anymore. And that's what I want you all to understand. I want you to all understand how frustrated, how pissed off, how furious, how angry, how bitter, how crushed, how heartbroken I am that Eminem, my all-time favorite rapper, my hero, my inspiration, my idol, whatever, never released any of his albums when I wish they would have been released, except maybe for his music to be murdered by albums. And that's about it. That's about all. But other than that, he's never released any of his albums the month, day, or especially years that I would have wanted him to release them. When it comes to most of his albums, that is. And so, yeah, that's what I want you all to know and understand about these videos I'm doing, this video series. And you know, I do a video pretty much every day, or at least I try to, so that I can get this video series out there and done, so that I can move on to other more interesting, fascinating, better, cooler videos than these lame, corny, cringe, boring, annoying, repetitive videos that I know are driving a lot of you crazy. And I'm sorry, but I enjoy making these videos. If I didn't enjoy them, I wouldn't even bother to do these kind of videos. But I do enjoy them. And if you don't, then that's your prerogative or whatever. And, you know, that's your own thing. And I'm sorry you don't enjoy these videos as much as I do. But, I mean, I can't change that. I can't make any of you enjoy videos that I enjoy making myself. But anyways, that's all I wanted to say in today's video. Let me know what you all think in the comment section down below. I'm out.